Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Making Small Talk show. I am Kylie Bennett of Kylie in Kentucky, and today I have a guest with me, and that guest is Lauren Ibach of Lauren Ibach Lettering. So I'll let her go ahead and say hello.
Hi, everybody.
And we're super excited to be talking together today about our individual perspectives on something that you've probably thought about before, and that is publishing a book. And that can be a workbook, a storybook, a memoir, or something like Lauren does, which is a hand letter devotional. Lauren is a self-published author about to be twice over, and I worked with a publishing company for my book. So we can provide a really unique perspective on the pros and cons of both. And I'm positive that if you have been wondering about whether you should approach a publishing company or whether self-publishing seemed really intimidating to you, you'll have a lot of really great insight about this topic once we are done talking. So I'll go ahead, and I thought it would be good if we both shared our individual experience about how we came to the book world, whether Lauren, you decided you wanted to self-publish, kind of how you came to that idea, starting with the conception of the idea, and then I can tell my story because I think it will be very opposite after you get done with yours.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story again because it's been a while and I don't remember it all, and I know I'm going to just be surprised by some things, but I know I am. I always forget some things. I know the general idea, but yeah, I think our approach, mine was more accidental and I think yours was more intentional. I started working on my first book at the end of June of 2017. But I'm going to rewind back to like 3 weeks before that, because it's just kind of funny and it totally relates to how intimidated I was to like self-publish, because I still remember exactly where I was in the car when I was having this conversation with my husband, Luke. I said, I would love to do a book someday. It's definitely on my bucket list, but I will never self-publish. And then I kind of backtracked and I was just like, maybe I would self-publish, but I'd have to have X amount of followers before I did it because it'd just be so hard to get the word out and I would actually want to sell it. And so then like 3 weeks later, I start doing this personal Bible study where I decided I'm going to read through the book of Romans on my own, and I'm just going to hand letter my notes and key verses that inspire me, and it's just going to be for me. And so I was doing this, and then of course I was posting pictures on Instagram because it's what a good millennial does, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I posted the first one and I was so surprised by the response that I got, and people were like, I can't wait to see the next ones. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I guess I better like keep going with this, but I needed the accountability. So it wasn't like one of those things where it was social media pressuring me and motivating me to continue with this. It was just the right amount of accountability I needed to like stick with this Bible study, because I'm really good at starting them and getting like a certain amount in and then not quite finishing them.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make a note. That's part of my story too, is that I needed accountability, but in a totally different way. So that's interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, so that's funny. I mean, you need it when you're doing a book. Mm-hmm. But so as I was posting on social media, I would choose a word that I felt summed up the chapter that I was reading, and then I had like a little caption, of course, with it to just talk about what I learned. And then as I'm posting, I'm like on to Romans 4. So it didn't take that long. There are 16 chapters in the book of Romans in the Bible. I don't know if you're familiar with the Bible or not, but there are 16 chapters, and it was like chapter 4 that I'm starting to get people being like, I want copies of these pages when you're done, or you should write a book. And so many people were saying it that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book. Can't be that hard. Like, I'm already a quarter of the way done. I'm like, how hard could it be? Like, and so it was good that I went into it with ignorance, because it was so much work. Mm-hmm. And had I known how much work it was, I probably wouldn't have done it. But that's not to say like you shouldn't go for it, because I'm so thankful that I did it. And obviously it wasn't so scary that I didn't do another one, because I like literally just, I could be approving my book today to go to print. So like I'm
Your second
practically
book.
done with it. My second book, yes. So my first book was Ephesians, a hand-lettered devotional, and then, or no, Romans, a hand-lettered devotional. My second book is Ephesians. So same idea. So it's all like very intricate hand-lettered art. You can go on my Etsy shop. It's Lauren Ibach lettering, all one word. And you can go and see previews on my Romans devotional page, and then soon on my Ephesians page as well. There's just intricate hand lettered art, and then there's a devotional thought to go with each one. And it's a really simple concept, but it was just very complex. And in the process, I had to learn about copyright, because modern translations of the Bible are copyrighted, and that was a huge learning curve for me. um, and what else? I had to learn, I had to find a printer. And so now I'm actually onto my second printer. I didn't love the first printer. I had a lot of issues with them. I had to learn about, I had to find an editor. And so I knew my editor from my old job. I used to work at a church, and the church did a publication every other month, I believe it was. It used to be, I know it's changed a lot, but they do a publication regularly, and it's basically a magazine, and she edits all of it. And I had done some interviews for the church through her, and so I knew her through that, and I knew she was just a fabulous editor, and so I reached out to her. So basically had to figure out where my connections were, and I really feel like the Lord revealed those to me and put me in certain jobs and positions, because I have a lot of like random connections that just ended up not being random, and now I have like relationships with these kinds of people. Anyway, that kind of feels like a tangent, but basically you just have to find all of these people to help you make the book happen on your own.
And there's a
And
lot of
that's super,
learning.
there's a lot of learning. You have to do all the formatting yourself. The first printer that I worked with, they had a program that you put everything into, that helped with a lot of that formatting kind of stuff. But I mean, it's still mostly you. And then now my new printer, I just have to do it all in Adobe Illustrator. And
Right.
so it just kind of varies from printer to printer or person to person you're working with. But is that pretty much, do you think that's enough of the story?
Yeah, I think well, there's more because
There's more.
I know more, and I'll remind you of what that is, because there's
Okay.
also, after you create the book, which you did a great job of finding people to help you along with the writing, because you do have a couple people reading your writing to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
you are on track where you need to be, and then you have an editor. So you have a lot of that stuff under control. But there's also the part where you have to put the upfront cost of buying your inventory, getting the books
Yeah.
printed, and then you also have to fulfill all of your orders as well.
Yes. So there's a huge part of the story I forgot to share.
Well, girl, that's as you know, I'm not a fan of either of those things, so that's why I was like reminding you that
Yes, thank you. No, it's easy to forget, because the first time, now that I've like got a system down and I actually have a business that is supporting the second book, I didn't have that. My first book is what really launched my business. And so I needed financial help. So I did a Kickstarter campaign, is what I'm sure you were wanting me to talk about. I did a Kickstarter campaign to launch my first Romans devotional, the first book. And the way I decided to approach it was that I would ask for a portion of the money that I needed, and then I would put in a portion of my own money to back the project and get the first. I got 600 books printed at the beginning, and I've had like a few other print runs after that. But to start, because I was like, it's my goal to sell like 500 in my lifetime. And then I have some extras that I can give away. And I had some other influencer people that I reached out to. So then I just like had a buffer too. And anyway, let's see. So I asked for $800 for the Kickstarter campaign, which actually wasn't even half of what printing cost. And I made all that money in like a matter of days. And then Kickstarter picked my project as one of their favorites. And so then I got even more attention on the project, and I ended up raising just under $4,000, which covered the printing completely, and had some extra money so I could get myself a Dymo label printer that I'm looking at right now, because I knew that would be really helpful in fulfilling all of these orders. And boxes to ship out the stuff and everything like that. So I looked at my Kickstarter as a pre-order. It wasn't just like, give me money to help me do this. It was pre-order this book, and by doing this, you're helping me. And I'm going about the same way with that as I am with my, sorry, words are hard. I'm doing
They
the
are.
same thing. I'm doing the same thing with my new book, but I'm just doing it on Etsy. So I'm like doing this early bird pre-order because I need help covering the costs, and it's just a little bit different, but same idea. So I have found that Kickstarter did bring in more of those people, because people look at it more as like, help me make this thing possible. And with Etsy, no matter how many times you try to communicate that to people, and especially me referring back to like, this is just like what I did on Kickstarter, they see it more as like, I'm making a purchase instead of I'm helping this person, even though it's the same thing.
Right.
So.
Well, there are some areas of overlap between us as far as needing accountability. And of course, no matter whether you have a book through a publishing company or you're self-publishing it, there's also all the promotion that you have to do for it on your own to make sure that those books are being sold. So for me personally, you said that you thought my book, the How That Came to Life, was more purposeful, but it actually wasn't, because I had put out into the world via just saying out loud, I want to one day have a book. And I'm a lettering artist, as most of you probably know if you're here. I'm sure you know that. But I just didn't, it never crossed my mind that I would have a book about lettering. Honestly, I thought I would write a fiction novel before I would ever have a book about lettering, because it just never crossed my mind. And I ended up
Yeah, I have that in common. I thought I was just going to write this fiction book that would like never see the light of day.
Right, exactly. Well, I thought mine would definitely see the light of day. And I was like,
yours is a little more legit. Wasn't writing anything.
Well, it's no longer very legit, but at the time, like, that's what I thought would happen. And I ended up writing an article for a craft magazine called Do Magazine, and it's a quarterly publication. And I wrote like a 5-page spread about tips for lettering. And honestly, like, I said yes to it because it was a paycheck, and had no idea that it would turn into anything more than that. And I still have the magazine. Let me just show you, because I can show you. It's a video show. Isn't that fun?
It's so fun.
It's a really nice publication.
How pretty.
Yeah, it's really great. And I mean, it's just full of just really great craft stuff. They sell it at Barnes & Noble in the magazine section. But yeah, so I had one of my lettering pages was in the magazine.
Right away.
And then this was my spread, Lettering 101. And so if you've seen my book, this looks very much like my book.
Yeah.
Because
guys, I haven't even seen this before. This makes me all excited.
Yeah, and it was, I mean, it was just wonderful. I took all the pictures and wrote all the content, but they just nailed it putting it together.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that the publishing company that publishes this magazine was interested in anything beyond me writing an article. And they came, as soon as I had turned in all the pictures and the content for the article, somebody had called me that afternoon asking me if I wanted to write a book. So it was like, I just had no idea, and I cried, and I was so excited and happy, and just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a publishing company produce a book for me. I did not want to have to do any of the learning that Lauren talked about.
Neither did I. Neither did I. But here we are.
You nailed the learning part. And I'm sure I could have figured it out too, but it wasn't even on my radar. Like, I don't even think I realized that self-publishing was even an option for me at all, because I think what I had been exposed to via Instagram was the publishing company world for lettering artists to produce a book. I just never thought that a self-published book could get any traction, but you have definitely proved that wrong. Don't get
Oh,
me.
thanks.
But so anyway, I only had a very short amount of time to put my book together because it could either come out in January of 2018 or fall of 2018. So it literally would have just come out had I not said, let's do this. I
That's
can get
crazy
this
to think.
done in like 60 days. That's all I need. So I did a crazy amount of work for 60 days. I did get paid in advance, which that's a
Wait, you
different,
only had 60 days.
yeah. I
I
only
guess
had,
that's
I had
about,
2 months. I had 2 months.
okay, because I did my whole book in probably like 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I thought you had longer, that you were working on it
No,
longer than that.
no. I started working on it in July and everything was due like right before my birthday, which is the last day of September. So it was a very quick turnaround. It was like mid-July and then everything was due and I got it in ahead of deadline.
Would you recommend that to someone?
Well, they gave me the option.
Yeah, I
No.
know, but you and I are talking about how I got my book done in 90 days, you got yours done in 60. Like,
Well,
would you recommend that for someone? Because I would be like, give yourself a year.
here's the difference between our books and our projects. I already had most of the work done, to be completely honest, because they came to me with the idea. So this is another thing. They came to me with the idea of what they wanted the book to be based on my 50 ways to letter worksheets. They said we want to pull 20 alphabets from those. So all I had to do was go through worksheets that I'd already created and pull out 20 different alphabets, which surprisingly was very easy. And because I had done so much work like a year and a half prior, so that kind of made my life easier. I had a lot of content online that I could pull from as far as writing how-to blog posts and things like that. But all that I had to provide them with was a Word document with my writing and then pictures that were numbered accordingly for where they should go with the writing. They did all the design on the inside of the book and all the formatting and everything. So my work really wasn't as much as it probably looked like when you get the book in your hands and you see it, because I had people to do pretty much everything besides saying like this is how you actually letter and these are the steps and blah blah blah. The thing that probably took the longest time honestly was the creative worksheets that I had to include that weren't things I'd already done, because obviously I wanted to have content that had never been seen before for
Mm-hmm.
the book. So coming up with new ideas to include in it was the hardest part. So I don't know that I definitely wouldn't recommend 60 or 90 days for anybody. I think your idea has to carry you through the writing process or through the creation process. Because if you don't love your idea, and if your idea isn't just what's fueling you and like making you stay on track as far as accountability goes, like your idea almost needs to be your accountability as far
Mm-hmm.
as believing in it so much. And
You have
then,
to believe in it, or it's not going to get done. It
yes.
will not. If I didn't believe in it, I think about that all the time. I'm like, if I was just like halfway into this idea, it would not
Mhm.
happen.
Yeah. And I think that you could, if you're writing a book, you're writing, it just depends on you as a person, I think, and who you've got on your support team to help you. If you've
That's
already
true.
got an editor, if you've already got people helping you, if writing is going to become, a part of your every single day because you have the time and the effort to put into it, then I think you could, if you wanted to write a book or create a book in 60 or 90 days. But you need to have other people making sure that you're putting your best work forward. So for me, that was my publishing company. And for you, we were talking a lot during this process. That was like the beginning of our friendship because we were
Mm-hmm.
connecting over, I
Our
think we
book.
connected over the fact that we both had a book coming out. And you also had friends and then your editor and other people making sure that you were not the only pair of eyes looking at it before it was going to go out.
Yeah. And
So
having an editor was like, that was my biggest thing where I'm like, I'm very confident in my lettering abilities, but not my writing
Mhm.
abilities.
Yeah.
Like I just said like 10 minutes ago, words are hard.
Yeah, they are hard.
So yeah, even going into my second book, knowing Jennifer's going to look it over. And and then I also had a couple, their names are Wendy and Scott, and they are just amazing. They know the Bible really well. And they were the ones that looked into it to make sure that things were theologically correct, because that was important for my book. And so they were unable to do it this time. So I had my friend Joan look it over. And between Joan and Jennifer, they're both believers. And so, but Jennifer more trained in the grammar stuff. It was just, I felt like I could write more freely this time because I'm like, Joan and Jennifer got my back. This is not all on me and it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah.
Yeah. And our books are very different in length. They're very different in style. And they're just, I mean, they're just totally different topics. So if your book
Yeah.
is,
Other than the fact that the lettering part is the same, they're completely different.
yeah.
Like it's
So I think,
hand lettering but not the same.
right, just your subject and the length of the book and everything is going to determine how long you could put into it. And honestly, like you could take 2 years to create something, or you could say, I'm going to get this done in X amount of time. And also, I'm going to make sure that I have a whole lot of people helping me make sure that it's the best it could be. Because if it were up to me to self publish a book, like I don't know how many ideas I've told Lauren I have that I'm going to pursue that have never happened, because I get ideas and then I just never follow through. So I think the biggest thing for both is you just need to know what kind of accountability you need. And then also, I want to talk about some of the pros and cons. So if you would like to present a pro to, or I could present maybe a con that I know is a pro for somebody that wants to self-publish, then we can kind of go back and forth, because I've put in a lot of thought on this and we've talked a lot about it. But I would say a con to working with a publishing company, which it's not even that much of a con, but it is something that if you know you're this type of personality, maybe working with a publishing company is going to be harder for you. You'll have to work harder to find the right people to work with, which I feel like I got very lucky, and I have great people on my team, on their team, and I am so lucky to work with them. But you do have to be flexible in your creative control. And it was hard for me to learn that I do not know everything. I do not know about layout. I was thrilled with how they put the book together. I could have never done that on my own. But had I tried to do it on my own, probably would have taken me like 5 years, because I would never have been happy. So releasing creative control for the most part about how the book was going to look inside was actually great for me. But if you don't want to release control and you want to be in it in every step of the process, like full 100% control, then maybe self-publishing is the right avenue for you. Would you agree with that?
Totally. And I would say, like, if you want full control, just know it's going to be so much more work. Because the other thing, too, I think it's worth mentioning, like, it took me 90 days to get a 40-page book done. So I can't even imagine how long it would have taken me to do a book like yours, Kylie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking a year and a half if I were to self-publish it on my own completely, because it's just so much longer and there's so much more content in there. But yeah, I think if you want to have the creative control, then you can, and you can self-publish, but you also have to weigh the cons of self-publishing, which is it might not reach as many readers, and it's going to take you a lot longer. I would argue it's twice the amount of work.
Mm-hmm.
So you could, like, is it worth it for twice the amount of work? Or if you really think you can trust in this publisher, and you can obviously do your research, I'm sure, like, look at the other books that they've done and you're like, oh, their style is really cool. I'm kind of nervous about it, but you know what? They're the pros. Like, I think now that I've done 2 on my own, and I'm just really like, I really don't love the formatting part of it. I would be way more open to just like, you're the pro, take it, do what you want with it. I'm sure I'll love it.
Mm-hmm.
But I am kind of a control freak when it comes to, like, especially in my books, because you put so much time into it. So I don't want to make it sound like I've let go of that. Like, I definitely care about what it looks like, but I know the amount of work that goes into it. So
Right.
I want to try. Like I do really want to get published someday, and I think that I will. Um, but now I feel like I can go into it like just knowing more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
you learn every time, and I feel the same way. I'm going to start working on my second book. Like I thought I was going to start working on it this fall, but I think it's going to be like early next year.
I
And
didn't
I
even know
already,
that.
yeah, it's. I mean, it's still very, all. It's just a lot of talk right now, but I am under contract for two books. So the second book will happen. It just is a matter of time or a matter of when it will happen. But that's another thing too, is when you are with a publishing company. Okay, I will say, yes, it's less work. Absolutely. You do get,
It's still a lot of work, but
it's still a ton
less.
of work. Oh yeah,
It's
but
still a
it's,
ton
I
of
mean,
work, but it's
I would not
less.
be self-publishing. I think is the moral of the story here is like I will not self-publish because I know how much work Lauren puts into it, and that's just not gonna happen for me. Like I know myself. And it won't look how I have this grand vision in my head either. So that's another thing. But also I got paid in advance. And that was amazing. And I was so happy for that. And I do get paid royalties. And that could be considered a pro or a con because for Lauren, she might not sell as many books as I would, having a company that can distribute the books to stores across the US, but you get a larger profit per book sold. And it's very much up to you to push your books. And you can approach stores on your own to have them put into stores. You can do all of that yourself. It might just be a lot more legwork. So I would say that for you, there's more legwork, but you have a greater, I guess, return on your investment and potential to like really, really profit. Because if we sold the exact same amount of books, you would be making probably 10 times more money than I would.
Yeah, but you've sold like I think you've sold like 10 times more. By now at least you've
Yeah.
sold 10 times more books.
But over time, I guarantee that you will see like a greater profit than I probably would on a book because my book will only live for so long. Unless people continue to buy it, they will not continue to print it. And sometimes, the printing numbers get less and less each time. So that's another thing when you're working with a publishing company, they have to take their cut, and they rightfully should because they're doing all the work that I don't have to do. And I only make a cut of their profit. So there's, and that's not to say that my book wouldn't sell so well that I could make a lot of money, but it would never be something that I would just like base like my income around. And this is
Hmm.
solid, solid money. And, the whole thing is you don't make very much money on a book. And that's
It's true.
kind of,
And I wanted to talk about that, so I'm glad you started going into
yeah,
that.
I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean mine started not as a book, and then it became like the book became a passion project. Like it started as a Bible study, and then the doing a book became a passion project because it was on my bucket list to do it, and I was going to do it just because people wanted it, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it. And but I never really had the I want to make a lot of money off of this because
I
like I said,
don't think
I
you
wanted to sell 500 books in my lifetime.
right.
I sold half that just in my Kickstarter. So I feel like that was for sure the grace of God, and I still hadn't put a whole lot like of marketing into it yet. Um, but I think it really helped me to just have that mindset of like, I'm gonna do this no matter what, even if I only sell a few books. I'm gonna push it as hard as I can, obviously, but like I am not expecting to make any money off of this. If I can just make the money back, and yeah, it'd be great to make a couple grand because I worked my tail off for an entire summer, but I was not expecting it to be so successful that it allowed me to quit my day job and do it full time. I just think you need to, especially as a self published author and your first one, you need to have realistic
Oh
expectations.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I relate it back to when I was doing music, and I've done 2 solo music projects and music albums. And every time people are like, you gotta buy 1,000 of them, you gotta buy 1,000 CDs. So they're like, because you're gonna sell them all. And every like indie artist has just like boxes of CDs in
Aw.
their house. And it's just like, it's just the exact same way with books. Like, if you're a self-published author, like, yeah, it's going to be cheapest if you probably get 1,000 books. But realistically, do you think you're going to sell them, or would it make more sense to buy 500 of them up front?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you need to buy more, buy more. But
Right.
I mean, I didn't make anything off of my CDs because I just over purchased them. So that's
Mm-hmm.
another like money thing too. Like, you have to be realistic about like, how many people do I think that I can reach? And how long do I want to be selling this for? Am I really going to be able to push this? It all factors into how many you're going to be able to sell.
Yeah, so true. And I was thinking about, that too. I've talked with another friend about self-publishing a book because Amazon Create Space is a really great resource for people that want to write a book. And there's no inventory there. You're only responsible for purchasing your ISBN number, and Amazon will create the book and drop ship it when it's purchased. So that's like an amazing thing. But there's obviously a lot of pros and cons with that. But I was telling this person about that, and then they were thinking about, well, should I order books and sell them on my own? Should I have 200 books sitting in my room as a reminder that I haven't sold those last 200 books? And for me, I thought, well, I think no matter what, you're going to feel pressure. So it just depends on, do you want to feel the pressure yourself because you've got that inventory that you need to push, or are you like me and you feel the pressure to make sure that every single book every penny that your company spends to print the books and to distribute them, that you're doing your best to promote
Mm-hmm.
them on your social media platforms to make sure that you are making your company money so that they will continue to print the books. It's just there's pressure no matter which way you go to
Mm-hmm.
really perform well, or for your book to perform well, and for you to make sure you're promoting it a lot, which I'm just terrible at promotion, but I'm going to use this video to promote my
You're getting better. You're getting so much better. You're not terrible. You've
thank you.
gotten so much braver and better.
Yeah, I'm a little bit braver now.
A lot.
But yeah, so there's definitely pros and cons. I'm trying to think if there's any other pros and cons that we could talk about as far as
I feel like we talked about a lot of cons. Let's talk about some pros.
yeah. My big huge pro for me is that I don't ever have to worry about trial and error of ordering. Oh my gosh, that's my worst nightmare, is just having to, let's just say I'm
What
impatient.
happened with me, you mean?
Yeah, what Lauren does, like, I have no desire, and I respect anybody that can like get a sample of their book and then edit that and then revise and then get another sample and then do the same thing. It's just that whole process. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to order shipping materials. I don't want to fulfill orders. And that was why I closed my Etsy shop down a year and a half ago, or however long it was. So for me, working with a publishing company is the only way. Despite that there might be some cons about it, to me it's all worth it in the end if I don't have to worry about touching my book as it goes to somebody else's house. I would rather them just like walk into a store and it's just there.
Yeah, well, that goes along with one of my pros. I mean, it's harder to get your book into a bookstore when you're self-published. And
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I have it in like one store. I tried another store, but a lot of stores just kind of like with local artists and authors want it to be commission based. And
Oh
then it
yeah.
just ends up like, for me, it just ended up being way too much work and the commission just wasn't fair. And for what I thought, especially if I'm like, basically it was like some of the places wanted to like have a commission on it and other places wanted to buy it wholesale, and it both ended up being like the same. And I'm like, well, the people who buy it outright should just get a deal because like they're buying them all up front, and so that's not fair to them anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's all that kind of stuff, but it goes along with my pro because I love fulfilling orders and I love seeing the names of the people and the states that they're being ordered and sent to. And like, um I feel like that's changing or getting orders and everything together is a little bit more complicated. I was just talking to Kylie about this earlier because I don't just sell books. I now sell mugs and print stands and pins and prints and notepads and soon a calendar. And so I have to now find all these different boxes to put things in. But for the most part, like, even though that complicates things more, I just feel a really deep sense of fulfillment when I'm the one touching the product and putting my thank you note and my little sticker in the box. And I know it's not going to be that way always, because I do want my business to grow to a point where I have to have some help. But for right now, like, that's a really special part of the process for me. And so I don't know. And I guess another reason I really like doing that is because I had a big issue with my first printer. And I don't want to like say the name of the company here because I've heard of other people who've had fabulous experiences with this printer. But I didn't, and they kept screwing up orders, and I ended up with like 600 books that I just looked awful and I couldn't sell, and had to send back some of them and donated actually half of them, which was a huge blessing. Um, but where was I going with this?
That you like fulfilling your
Oh, I
orders.
thought about how like I would love to have my book on Amazon, but I never, and like have Amazon take care of that because it is a lot of work, especially during the holidays. It's a lot of work. I spend hours packaging. And so I've thought about that, but I've never really felt confident until I started working with this new printer to feel like I wouldn't need to see the books first before they like shipped off to
Mm-hmm.
like Amazon warehouse. So that's
Right.
like something that like if you have a good printer that you trust and you know they're going to get it right every time, then that's something that I would be more easy for me to like pass along.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I might be getting to that point. I don't know. We'll see how this first book goes, but yeah, that all factors in too. Sorry, I
Yeah.
feel like I keep getting on these like random tangents.
That's okay. That's okay. I think it's good for people to hear. And obviously, this episode is going to be super long, which is fine by me because I would have loved to hear a conversation like this.
Same,
Yeah,
same.
would have loved it. So I'm really excited for this episode to go up. And I'll just say one of my pros, and I feel just like so blessed that this is how it is for me. But my company is so good at getting my book in stores that I just never thought I would see my work in period. The other day I was in Hobby Lobby and I'd never seen my book in Hobby Lobby
Mhm.
before. And my husband was like, let's see if they have your book. And I was like, no, they're not going to have it. And just walked off. And he was like, hello, it's right here. And it was right next to an artist that I used to watch on YouTube all the time, right next to her book. And I was like, this is crazy. So I've never seen it in Barnes and Noble, but a lot of other people have, and it's in Joanne and it's in
I found it at
Walmart.
Joanne. That was where I saw it.
Yeah,
I still
Target.
haven't seen it at Barnes and Noble. I really want to find it at Barnes and
I've
Noble.
never seen it there either, but my mom has. So I wonder if they didn't. A lot of people from my hometown have seen it in different Barnes and Nobles around Kentucky. So I wonder if they specifically targeted the Barnes and Nobles in Kentucky. I don't know.
I live near the Mall of America. It should be at that Barnes and Noble.
Yeah, that's true. But I feel that that's a definite con for working with a publishing company is that they have the know-how, they have the staff there that their sole job is to get your book into stores. And they also show up to huge book conferences and creative conferences where they are mingling with people who are there solely to pick up product for their store. And they invited me and another artist who now has a book through them. I should really go get it and show it off. um, when you go into your next thing, I will run downstairs and get it because she would love to have her book on here since it's just now out. But I was able to actually show the book and give 100 copies of my book away at Creativation in January when it first came out and show it to people who wanted to have the book in their store. And to say, when someone asks you about this book, you can actually say, I've talked with the author and this is how she walked me through the book and this is how you're supposed to use it. So that's a definite pro to me that is a priceless pro. We'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, And that's definitely, like I said, just kind of been a con for me. I would have loved to have my book in more shops, but I mean, it's hard to find local bookstores around me that don't just sell like used books, because we have a lot of
Hmm.
like half price books, kind of used bookstores. And then since it's a Christian book, um, that makes it a little bit more complicated in getting into stores
Hmm.
too. And Lifeway, I don't know if anybody who is watching this video is familiar with Lifeway, but they're kind of they're the Barnes and Noble of the
Right.
Christian book world,
Hmm.
basically. And they have very strict policies on what they let in and what they don't. So I don't even have an option of getting my book in there. So
Yeah.
I'm still very confident in doing like very outwardly Christian books. Do I know if that's going to be my next one? I don't know. There'll definitely, I don't know. I think there will be a next one.
Yeah, I think there will
I
be
think
too.
there will be.
Which
But
honestly, I want to go ahead and just say that there are a lot of people out there who write their book, who have their book out in the world, who self-publish their book, and then they take the book to a publishing company
mhm.
and they say,
And I could see myself doing that because
yeah,
I know, like, I'm so confident in my books. Like, I don't mean to be like super intense about it, but I'm like, they're short, but they're quality books. And I
hmm,
know that there is a publishing company out there that would want them.
right,
I just haven't put the time into finding them. And that's another thing too. Like, the second book I really wanted to be published, but then I was like, I really want to have it out by November of this year. And so I was like, I don't honestly think I'm going to be able to find a publishing deal in a year,
hmm,
less than a year, because I was like thinking about this in January of this year. So not even a year ago. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it one more time. And then I'm going to start looking into getting published.
right.
So,
So that's a thing too. If you're worried that that you just don't want to reach out to a publishing company right now, maybe it's worth it for you to go ahead and self-publish the book and see how it does, because great example of this would be Amy Tangerine. She self-published her book Create a Life You Love through Amazon Create Space, and once that book had done really well on Amazon, she then presented it as, I want a book deal for this, and the next reprint I want it to be reprinted through a publishing company, and she was picked up. And little known fact, Peggy Dean did the exact same thing. She self-published her first books on like floral line drawing, botanical line drawing is what it's called.
they're so beautiful. I saw them at Powell's like a few
Yeah.
weeks ago on
And I
my
mean,
trip.
they looked totally different than what they look
Mhm.
like now, because when she first self-published, she was doing everything.
Yep.
And then when she brought the book to a publishing company, or maybe somebody approached her, I don't remember. But then she changed the design for the reprint and everything like that. So that's always an option for you to go ahead and see how your book does out in the world, and for you to just get through the process. And honestly, creating a book, period, is such a rewarding process. If you are passionate about the idea, I say that you should just go ahead and try to create the book, because if you're confident in the final product and you get it self-published, you will sell copies, and you can then like know, now I feel confident enough to go to a publishing company and to present this, and I've already done the work, and there's really not much time and effort that would have to go into this. And I don't know, I think there's definitely a possibility to start in one area and move to another one. And for me, even though I have a publishing company now, if I want to ever put that fiction book out into the world, I'm going to self-publish it on Amazon Create Space. Like
And
I'm
that's so like we haven't even talked about just doing like ebooks even.
not. Hmm. Oh yeah.
Because that eliminates the printing issue and it's so stinking easy to just
Hmm.
publish. I mean, still have to put in the same amount of writing work and all of that stuff, but you get to eliminate the printing part, which is very expensive
Hmm.
and can be very difficult.
Yeah.
So you eliminate this huge thing
Right.
by doing that. I haven't done it yet, but I still think I would like to eventually get my at least my Romans devotional out there. Now that it's been out almost a year, I feel like um, I could put it on Amazon. And I have a lot of like international folks who keep asking for it. It's weird. There are so many countries that I've not so many, but I've heard of a few countries where like it's not safe to send mail
Hmm.
to these places because the mail gets stolen. And I think that's so sad because this one girl, she's like, it's not really safe for me to order mail right now. Like, is this going to be on Amazon? I was like, no, it's
That
not.
is terrible. I did not
I
know that.
know. So it's like you have some people that like really want them, but that's like a whole different thing. But
Right, right.
I would
Wow.
like it to be more accessible to other people, but I think mine would actually just go on like the Apple like iBooks
Hmm.
because the format of my book is so important since it's a devotional, but it's also very much an art book. And I think that like that would work better even for your book too,
Right.
because it's like so much of the enjoyment of the book is the formatting. And when I looked into doing it for Kindle, it just kind of looked sad.
Yeah.
Kindle's great if you're writing just words.
Hmm.
But if you're putting together this beautiful book,
Right.
iBooks is better for that.
So I think we have really covered a lot of the pros and cons. And maybe you're thinking that it sounds like there are a lot of cons, but I think the bottom line is it's a lot of hard work put in either way. And it's none of it's a con. I don't feel that there's any cons really for either of us because we love the process and the product so much. Would you agree with that?
I don't love the process, but I love having the finished product. So it
Yeah.
makes it worth it.
Maybe because you've done it twice, you're realizing, maybe I'm so good and I know so much now that I am confident in taking it to a publishing company. But I think when you are just so excited about the initial idea, that can carry you through the
It
process.
can carry you through. And there are certain aspects of the process that I like, but as a whole, like, especially for my second book, it was really hard to motivate myself because I knew how much work it was.
Yes. Yes.
But I will say, like, all of that work is worth it. And I wouldn't have done a second book if I didn't, like, love the finished product
Hmm.
and
So why
believe
don't
it.
you go ahead and show us your Romans book, and then if you want to show the proof for the Ephesians book, you are welcome
Oh,
to
I
also
do.
do it. Okay.
I
And then
do.
let everybody know when your Ephesians book, like about the ordering details for that. Of course, it'll all be in whatever description, whether you're on my website or YouTube, it'll be below all the information, but just you can go ahead and say that anyway.
Yeah, I'll show you my Romans book first because this is out currently and you can buy it on Etsy only because I want to ship it out to you myself. And I'll just show you kind of what the inside looks like. See
Yeah, so
what I
cool.
mean? And so I'll show you my Ephesians book now. I like don't want to go too into like explaining the book, but I mean you can go. I have an IGTV video that's currently up. I don't know if it'll be up there forever, but it will be up there for a while. You can go check out and see if it's there. This is the proof for my Ephesians devotional. So it's not cut or bound or anything, but it's what it's going to look like. So there's that. See, yeah, you can see kind of the cut lines of where it
Mhm.
needs to go. And so that's what that looks like. And I'll show you a page in here. Again, it's not bound, so it's just a little harder to kind of show you. But yeah, there's even more devotional content. I got more comfortable and confident in my writing, and so I felt like I could write more, and so that's exciting for me. And oh, and I have some. I got a little bit into the like, let's do some Bible lettering, and so I have some
Yeah.
alphabets and stuff. And this book, this book is currently available for early bird pre-order, which means you'll get free shipping, free bookmarks with every book, and every copy is signed. And that is through September 19th.
Okay.
And
Is
then
that
it'll be
is that your birthday?
my birthday, September 18th.
Oh, I was like, wait, that'd be cool. I mean, that's another thing about self-publishing. You can release it on your birthday any day of the week if you want. Maybe I should I'll talk about that when I show my book.
Okay. Yeah. So through September 19th, you can get all of those perks. And then I'll be doing another pre-order. I'll be taking a break from pre-orders for a little bit until the actually release date is closer. So I'll open up a pre-order again and I'll for sure be doing free shipping. but I'm not sure if I'll be doing like signed copies or bookmarks. So if you really want all the freebies, go for it now.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't even said this to my following yet, but the plan was to release this book first week of November. And I think I'm actually going to be able to release it end of October. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
So that's the plan for that. So it'll be on Etsy as well.
Cool. Okay. Well, once again, I'll have the link and everything that you can just click right down below. But if you're watching this between September 19th and the end of October, I'm sorry, you've missed your chance.
Yeah,
But
2018, people. I don't know.
yeah.
2
Okay. Oh,
years
yeah,
down the road. Hello, future us.
Yeah, hopefully this video lives on for a really long time. So this is not my book, but I wanted to show it because this is the book that just came out by a fellow author under my publishing company, and she goes by the name Color Made Happy on Facebook, but I just got a copy of this book from my publishing company to talk about, and she does rock art, and this book is just beautiful, and it's like the
That's
perfect
so
little
pretty.
size. It's the perfect.
Is that the same size as your book, or is it a little small?
No, the size difference is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It is a
So
really
my
cute
book
little
is
size.
a workbook and hers is not. Hers is an instructional book and the pages are a glossy finished
Okay.
page, and mine is made for writing directly on. So they're going to be just a little bit different, but I might do a walkthrough. I might try painting some rocks on YouTube from what I've seen on this book. So we'll see about that. And then
So crafty.
yeah, I mean, it's fun and I can go hide them all around Carbondale, Illinois, and you guys can find them. So this is my book, Super Simple Hand Lettering. And like I said, it's a workbook, so you're meant to write directly on it. And if you're watching this, then you already know about this book, and I have a whole walkthrough of it on YouTube. But this is available. I always direct people to Amazon because I love 2-day free shipping if you have Prime. But you could also go perusing around your local bookstore and see if it's there, and it might be. I just don't know.
So
But
legit.
another thing is, just to throw this in, when you self-publish, you can control the timeline a lot more than I can control the timeline. And if you are impatient and you want to see that book happen just on your timeline, then I would definitely say self-publish, because if not, you could be working on a book with a publishing company the option for me was work on it in turn all of the content in September of 2017, see it come to life in January or the next fall, depending on if I needed more time to work on it. So it could have been almost a year of waiting to see it happen, and that would have just killed me. And it would just not
At that point, it's like where the excitement kind of fizzles and like.
That's right. So yeah. Well, that was like the latest deadline that they could even get it out in January. Their ideal deadline would have been like July or August. So that was, we were really pushing it. So that, I think, concludes everything, talking about pros and cons. And I love this. Once again, this is exactly what I would have wanted to hear when I was thinking about writing a book, period, whether you are writing a fiction novel, a memoir, a motivational book, creating a journal, just whatever you're doing. I think this is super helpful.
Yeah, totally. I would have loved some of this information. So if you ever have any questions about self-publishing, feel free to send me an email. Can't guarantee that I'll be able to answer it, but especially about printing, I will be honest about printing privately, one-on-one. I just don't like bashing companies publicly.
Right.
Don't
blame you.
Like I said, I think it was an isolated incident. I like to think that it was, but yeah.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about pitching yourself to a publishing company, I can definitely help you. I can definitely
Yes, please.
help.
Me too.
I know a lot about how to approach someone with your idea and how to make sure that you have a solid idea. And it doesn't have to be the perfect idea either, because if they're interested in your potential, they'll help you shape the idea until it is ready. And they are professionals. They know what they're doing. Well, I'll have all of the information for finding Lauren below. and all the information for our books and everything. I think I've already said that, but just so you can extra know. And that's about it for today. Once again, you can leave a comment letting me know what you thought of this episode. If you have a topic that you would like me to cover, if you have a topic that you'd like Lauren to come back and talk about,
I'll be back,
she will
folks.
always be back. She is always just a little Zoom call away. So we love doing these together, and it's been so much fun. So
yeah, this is a conversation we've been wanting to have for like months, I feel like.
yeah.
So
And
glad we finally got it documented.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I'll see you next Wednesday.